Welcome to the next part of the tutorial, and in this tutorial I show you what to do if you cannot conduct a paired t-test because your data does not meet an assumption that's made in the calculation of this test. So the particular assumption that our data didn't meet was the assumption of normal distribution, and now we need to conduct an alternative test that doesn't depend on your data being normally distributed. The test that we're going to conduct is called Wilcoxon signed rank test, and you run this test by going to analyze non-parametric tests. So non-parametric means that it doesn't depend on your data being normally distributed, which it isn't for this type of data that we looked at. And then you go to two related samples. I'm using the legacy dialog because the interface is a little bit easier to understand than the newer version. So go to legacy dialogs and then two related samples. So we have related samples because we took postural sway measurements from the same people, once without tape or brace and once with a particular taping or bracing technique, and that makes it related. So the terminology is somewhat unhelpful here because when you do a t-test they call it paired, and when you do a non-parametric test they call it related, but the meaning is the same. It means you have either exactly the same people or people that were matched on essential characteristics. So click on two related samples, and then in this dialog I'm just going to reset it because it's remembering what I previously did. In this dialog SPSS asks you what pairs of data you would like to compare. And the pairs of data that we would like to compare is the postural sway measured without tape or brace to the postural sway measured with a particular taping or bracing technique. So the pairs will always contain no tape or brace, and then the second variable will be the particular taping or bracing technique, and that's basically the measurement of postural sway with that technique applied. So move that across. So the first pair is no tape or brace compared to heel lock postural sway. The second pair is no tape or brace compared to figure of 8. Then no tape or brace compared to basket weave, no tape or brace compared to A60, and no tape or brace compared to air sports brace. The test type we would like to conduct is a Wilcoxon signed rank test, and that's already selected, so just leave this as is. Then go to options, and options allows us to get a little bit more information which is helpful to interpret the results. So in options, under statistics, select descriptives and quartiles. Then click continue and OK, and SPSS will now run 5 separate Wilcoxon signed rank tests comparing postural sway without tape or brace to the 5 separate ways of taping and bracing that were employed in the study. Click OK, and then first check in the descriptive statistics table that the data you entered is the data you wanted to enter, so we should have no tape or brace and the 5 separate techniques, and we should have 27 observations for each because we had 27 participants, so that's all fine. Then go to the actual results, which are reported under test statistics, and what you look at here is the asymptotic significance two-tailed row. So the reason it's a two-tailed test is that our initial hypothesis was that the taping and bracing techniques would make a difference to postural sway, but we did not specify whether we expected them to improve postural sway, so reduce the wobble that's observed, or whether we expected them to worsen the postural sway. This may seem somewhat counterintuitive, but basically we didn't want to specify the direction of the results, although we hope for an improvement. So that makes a two-tailed test if you don't predict the direction of the effect. Okay, you interpret the result of the Wilcoxon signed rank tests exactly the same way as you would any other statistical test. So you look at the probability value that's reported for the specific comparison, and if that probability value is smaller than or equal to 0.05, then the difference is unlikely to have arisen by chance, and chance is either individual variation or measurement error or combination of both. So for heel lock, the difference that we see in postural sway is statistically significant because the p-value is smaller than 0.05. For figure of 8, it is not statistically significant, but you are allowed to call this result marginally statistically significant because it's quite close to the cutoff. There's no general agreement when it is okay to call a result marginally statistically significant, but in general you won't have problems as long as the value is below or equal to 0.07. So figure of 8 made a marginally statistically significant difference, basket weave made a statistically significant difference, A60 made a statistically significant difference, and the air sports brace did not make a statistically significant difference because the p-value is larger than 0.05. So to know what direction this difference was, so whether the technique made an improvement to postural sway, so reduced the wobble, or whether it actually worsened the sway, so increased the wobble, we need to look at the descriptive statistics. So in the navigation pane on the left hand side, click on descriptive statistics and then look at the median. So this is one of the optional output we requested, and the reason you should look at the median rather than the mean is that we know that our data wasn't normally distributed, which is why we conducted this test in the first place. And comparing means or averages is only meaningful if the data, the two sets of data you're comparing, is normally distributed. So here it is not, so it would be wrong to look at the mean. Instead, you need to look at the median. And the median is the value below which 50% of your observations fall. Okay, so to know whether a particular taping or bracing technique made a difference in reducing or increasing postural sway, you need to compare the medians reported for postural sway without tape or brace to the postural sway reported for a particular technique. So the median for no tape or brace is 11,951 millimeters, and then if I compare this to the postural sway method measured with particular taping or bracing technique, I can basically say that there's generally a reduction. So reduction means improvement. They wobble less, their postural sway is reduced, their balance is better with a particular taping or bracing technique. So for heel lock, the reduction is statistically significant and unlikely to have arisen by chance. So heel lock is an effective technique of decreasing postural sway. Figure of 8 was marginally significant, so that means it is effective but only marginally so. Basket weave is statistically significant, so it makes a statistically significant improvement in postural sway. A60 is the same thing. Air sports brace did reduce it if you look at the descriptives, but this reduction is so small that it could have arisen by chance alone. So chance is either individual variation. If you measure postural sway twice for the same person, you will not get the same results, and that's individual variation. And people, so different people will differ too. And another source of error is measurement error. So usually any kind of measure has a certain tolerance, and that tolerance contributes to the measurement error. And what the result was telling us for the air sports brace is that the reduction that we see in postural sway is not large enough to exclude the possibility that it has arisen by chance, either because of individual variation or because of measurement error or because of a combination of the two. Okay, and that's really the summary of your results. So if I go back to the test statistics table, heel lock, basket weave, and A60 significantly decrease postural sway. Figure of 8 marginally decreases postural sway, and the air sports brace makes no statistically significant difference. And in the next part of the tutorial, I will show you how to write up the results and how to calculate something called an effect size, which will allow you to assess which of these techniques is most effective in reducing postural sway. Yep, that's it. So in the next part we're gonna do that. We should now save the file, so just click on save, give it a name, save it, go to the raw data file, save that too. It's already saved for me, but basically you just click on save. If there's still a little asterisk here, and then you can close SPSS.